Hi, everyone. This is Tina Donaldson, and I'm excited to be a part of Humans of Telecom.
Hey everyone, a very warm welcome to Humans of Telecom, the Unplugged podcast. This is your host Anurag Aggarwal. As you all know, this is a platform where we pull back the curtain on the fast-paced world of telecom and highlight the human side and personal stories of key figures, industry leaders, entrepreneurs, and innovators from the telco space. Stories that leave us inspired and fun facts that leave us amazed. And today we have with us one such super amazing person. Our telecom industry is full of unsung innovators who have tinkered away and made things possible long before they became popular. Our guest today, for example, is an early innovator in the world of what we now call platform communications. As a leader at Google, she influenced, negotiated, and ultimately revolutionized the SMS space, working with wireless carriers and industry to allow businesses to text messages over normal telephone numbers, which still exist today. Wow, isn't that interesting? She then went on to do game-changing work at another well-known industry player, Twilio, only to have a full circle moment in her life wherein she now works towards driving real change in how the industry can trust phone numbers on the network. Needless to say, this individual is a well-known thought leader within our communications and CPaaS community, something which you shall soon realize as well in this amazing conversation. So, without further ado, please join me in welcoming Tina Donaldson, VP of Strategy at netnumber. Tina, welcome to the show. Thank you so much for agreeing to be a part of this journey. We'd love to hear more about you. And let's start by knowing, where are you dialing in today from?
Hi, Anurag. Thanks for having me. I really appreciate the opportunity. I am joining you today from Encinitas, California, which is about 30 miles north of San Diego.
Wonderful, Tina. It's amazing to finally get you on the show. I know we've been trying for a long time, but in our busy schedules, it's been difficult, but finally we made it. All right. So let's start by unfolding the awesome story about Tina. So how did you get into this telecom space? Was it by accident? Was it planned? Let's hear Tina's journey.
Well, it was definitely by accident. I don't think many people decide to wind up in telecom, but yeah, my story's interesting. My mother was a fundraiser of a medical group here in town, and she had invited me to one of her events that happened to be in the owner's box of the local Padres baseball team. So I ended up sitting next to a couple of guys, and one of them had turned out to be a pretty big, successful entrepreneur. And so it ended up being a fun night, just joking around with these guys, watching the game, and making various kinds of silly bets. So upon our departure, there was a bet that was still unsettled. So I had found out that needed to be verified. So the next day I sent him a note indicating that it was nice meeting him, et cetera, and that I hated to admit that I had lost the bet. So he had replied and asked me to come over to his offices and that he had a question to ask me. And while I was there, he offered me a role to start and run his foundation. So that took me by surprise, to say the least. The idea behind the foundation was to prove out a new financial instrument for students to go to university. So it was pretty intriguing idea. So it took me about a week, and I finally said yes. So I was there for about a year, and as we had dispersed all the funds to the students and we were waiting to prove out the financial model, he needed some help at one of his other companies. And one of the other companies was a company called Gizmo 5. It was a voice over IP company that competed directly with Skype. At the time, it was a really, really far second to Skype. It was still a really small company. So I started working there in business development. And about a year later, it was ultimately sold to Google. So that's how I landed at Google. Once I landed there, it was in about, I think, 2009. I was a business product manager on the Google Voice team. So if you're not familiar, are you familiar with Google Voice?
A little bit, but it's been a while. So let's refresh everyone's memories.
Yeah, so Google Voice's use case was for basically individuals to leverage the power of the internet to manage the multiple telephone numbers that were used for communication back in the day and direct them to one number. So if you remember, like back in 2009, you had a business phone, you had a home phone, you had a personal mobile phone. God knows what other phone numbers you had, but there were lots of numbers that you would hand out depending on who you talked to. And so there were a lot of numbers and endpoints to manage. So Google Voice actually provided you one number that allowed access to multiple. So it made it a lot easier to manage through the power of the internet. So while I was there, one of my first projects that I was assigned was how to figure out how to enable landline numbers. The numbering schema in the US isn't as obvious in the rest of the world, and mobile numbers aren't identifiable by a prefix. So it made us easy for us to do this in the US because consumers didn't have a preconceived notion when they looked at a telephone number. They just saw it as regional depending on the first prefix. So we needed to ensure that the text feature was there for this product to be successful. So I had spent a lot of time working closely with the carriers in the industry to get this text model approved through what they were calling the intercarrier guidelines. And that took a couple of years. And out of this was born basically a whole new industry out of this slight change, this billion-dollar industry that we now know to be communication as a service or platform communications. So pretty incredible to see all the various use cases that were born out of something that was just a slight trivial change and how businesses can connect and communicate to their customers in a whole different way. So then in about 2014, I left Google Voice and I had moved over to the infrastructure team. Actually, it was in 2011. I had moved over to the infrastructure team and I managed all of global SMS, supporting internal products that used SMS as a feature, still including Google Voice. And then from there, I took about a 3-year hiatus within Google from the SMS space and spent some time on G Suite and Android. And then Twilio came knocking to come over and work on carrier relations and strategic development for their organization. So spent a lot of time there at Twilio, about 4.5 years. And then I left to take a bit of a break and did some consulting. And then about a year ago, I was asked to join NetNumber as the VP of strategy. So I keep getting called back into this telecom space. So here I am today talking to you.
Awesome, Tina. That seems to be a fantastic journey. And I can't help wonder that had you not headed off to that baseball game, all these fantastic innovations and the wonderful Tina Donaldson, who's an essential part of our industry today, I don't know what would have happened. So kudos to that.
Thank you.
And let's hear a bit further about within this journey. Do you think when you reflect back that is there one specific moment which was extremely significant or impactful that you'd like to talk about?
Yeah, I think the most memorable or actually most impactful is the encounter at the baseball game. I think it speaks volumes to opportunities that arise when you least expect it. There was clearly a connection there that I didn't even see. I never go to baseball games, and for some reason that day I chose to go. I mean, essentially that one baseball game changed the trajectory of my life. By being open to people and having discussions with strangers led me to where I am today. But not only that, I think that a complete stranger saw something in me that made him believe in me, that I was up to the task to start a foundation or come work with him. As young as I was in my early 20s. So he took a leap of faith in me that is, I think, helped boost my confidence in believing in myself and not letting him down, which was driving my need to succeed, at the time. And I think that it speaks volumes to the human connection, whether it's visible or non-visible. It really does exist. So I think that that specifically was the most impactful moment. I think there's been a lot of other things that have happened along the way, but as far as one small happens chance, it really changed the trajectory of where I am today.
Awesome. So we have with us here a quintessential butterfly effect moment, right? And everything just fell in place.
Mm-hmm.
Amazing. All right. So now, Tina, let's shift some gears. We'll not talk about work so much now. We'll talk more about the human side of Tina. So firstly, Tina, tell us something that is there anything unknown or shocking or unusual that you can share with us today?
Well, it's shocking. If it's something, to share something shocking about myself, if no one knows in a public podcast, I'm not quite sure if I want to share something too shocking, but realistically, it's strange. As old as I am, I have a hard time answering when somebody asks me, "Where are you from?" Because I am an American, but as an American, even when you ask that question, where do you define where you're from? I was born in Charleston, South Carolina. I moved when I was 2 to New York City. When I was 7, I moved to St. Louis, Missouri, and I've been in San Diego over 30 years now, in the San Diego area for over 30 years now. So it's kind of crazy because as simple question as to where are you from, I always struggle with that because where is from outside of the country, I get that, but where's from mean? Like, is it where I was born? Where are my first memories? Where did I go to primary school? Or where have I lived the most? I always seem to get tripped up on that question. So it's not as simple as where are you from with a one-word answer. So anyway, that's just something interesting that is a hard, it's a simple but yet hard question to answer every time I get asked that.
Yeah, I can totally get that. It happens with all of us on some or the other note. And I guess in your case, there's a bit of the US of different parts from all over the country, all part of
Mhm.
Tina. So I guess that's why it's difficult to isolate one as the unique one that you would identify with.
Right, right.
All right. And Tina, given that you have such a busy schedule and you're also busy innovating all the time, if we can put it that way. So, what do you do to recharge your creative juices? Is there something specific that you do? And do you have some passions or interests, something that you can share with our listeners today?
Yeah, I mean, when time permits, I absolutely love to travel to new destinations, meeting new people. I like learning about new cultures, trying new foods. Last year, we went down to Belize, and then we went to Cartagena, Colombia, and those were beautiful, fantastically wonderful people. Would love to go back. This year, in the fall, we'll be headed to Argentina. And then after the first of the year, we're heading to Egypt. So I think that going out and exploring the world really, really gets me excited. And when I come back, I'm definitely recharged. And if I'm not traveling, I like to take time for myself, maybe get a massage or sit in the garden with either a cup of coffee or wine and just kind of be by myself and just sort of listen and take in the nature around me. I am kind of at a weird crossroads right now. I'm exploring new interests. For years, I was driven by work and raising my kids, and we're now empty nesters. So I'm currently going through a journey to figure out what my new interests might be. So one of the things that I've started to get into is floristry. So I'll go to the local wholesale flower mart on Fridays and come home with a bunch of various flowers and create different bouquets that I put out around my home. So, stay tuned. I could probably have a better answer in a few months, but as of right now, I'm just exploring what those interests that excite me are in my near future.
Awesome. I think there's enough of interesting stuff you already mentioned out here, and you put in some very exotic destinations coming up in your travel plan. So, wish you all the very best. I do hope you have a wonderful time there.
Thank you. I'm excited.
Absolutely. And Tina, now we play a game wherein we're going to ask you to give us 3 statements. 2 of them have to be truths, 1 of them has to be a lie. And I'm guessing all the stuff that you've already mentioned is so interesting. So we can have 3 further interesting statements here today. So would you have 3 such statements that you can share with us?
Sure. So 2 years ago, I traveled down to Antarctica. That's one.
Mm-hmm.
The second one is when I was 15, I had the chance to meet Mother Teresa. That's 2. And then my third one is I have 6 children that are all now adults.
Okay, now this is a very interesting one for sure.
Mhm.
So I'm going to say that the third one is a truth. So you've got
It's a semi-truth. I have, but you're wrong. I have 5 children that are all adults in a blended family. 2 of my own and 3 of my husband's. So I have 5 adult children the youngest is 18, who just went off to college. So we are definitely empty nesters, but I don't have 6. I have, I guess, 5.
Well,
So
I think 5 is quite an interesting number as well. So
yes.
awesome. I'm quite impressed to see that in spite of having 5 children to manage and raise, on top of that, you've been doing so many awesome things in your profession as well. So hats off to you for that. And
Thank you.
that means that the other 2 statements that you mentioned are truths. So let's hear a bit more. So, how's your journey into Antarctica? That's a place even I'd love to go
Oh,
someday.
hold on. I I says 2 truths and a lie. I thought it was 2 lies and a truth.
Okay, very
So
well.
then guess which one of those 2 is the lie?
Okay, okay, you've turned the question around this time, but awesome. That makes it even more interesting. So let's see now. So one point was about going to Antarctica 2 years ago, and the other
Yeah.
one was around meeting Mother Teresa. Mhm.
Yes.
I would like to believe both are truths, but now sadly it seems one of them is a lie. Maybe you'll come back and say, "Oh yeah, I've been to Antarctica and I've been to Arctica as well." So one will have to see. Okay, so let's see. I'll go by the fact that maybe you've met Mother Teresa when you were 15 years old, and there is a possibility that you've not yet been to Antarctica, but plans are underway and you might be going in the near future. So, am I right out here?
You are correct. You are correct. I've not been to Antarctica. I would love to go to Antarctica. So hopefully that's in the near future. But the biggest thing that I absolutely hold really, really close to my heart was the ability to meet Mother Teresa. She happened to be in San Diego. My own mother volunteered with the Missionaries of Charity, which is her sisterhood, and she happened to be in San Diego and at the hospital where my mother had worked, and so I was invited in to have a mass with her as she sat in her bed and talked to her, and it was just a beautiful experience, just staring at this little woman. I mean, she's so little but so powerful, and just I remember looking at her, going, "I'm staring at a saint." So that was a really cool experience, and one that I keep very, very close to my heart.
Awesome. I can totally imagine that. I've never had the opportunity to meet Mother Teresa, but I can totally feel that moment would have been something extremely impactful and significant for you. So good.
Yeah.
You managed to get to do something very unique, which many of us would have loved to be a part of
And
those
she
moments.
was recruiting me in her bed, going, "Oh, look, you're very strong. I think we need sisters like you." So she's always recruiting. She's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah. I just again imagine that had that been the case, then once again, telecom would have lost out on an amazing person. One more for humanity and one less for telecom.
Yeah, there you go.
All right. And Tina, now to the last question of this section. If there's one thing you could change about your life, though I think everything seems super awesome, but still, if there is one thing you could change about your life, what would that one thing be?
You know, I don't think I would change anything in my life. I believe that all life experiences, whether good or bad, are key to personal development and growth. So if I would to say that I would change X, Y, or Z in my past, I wouldn't be the same person that I am currently here before you. So one of the things that, you reflect on life and you think of, like, if this would have happened or that would have happened. But, you know, I went to 7 different schools by the time I was 14. So I think this is why I probably have a hard time answering that question of where are you from, right? You'd think that that's something that I might want to change about my life. However, by going through that experience as a kid and going to all those many schools, I do have an inane sense of people. So, like, as a child, all you want is basically to have friends to play with. So as I repeatedly changed schools, I picked up on various social cues that helped me decide who and how best to make friends quickly. I think that this skill was subconsciously learned as a child, but it has helped me to be successful in all aspects of my life, both work and personal. So, I can walk into a situation, review the room with the people interacting, and assess various complicated, like, circumstances pretty quickly. So, I believe that in all of life's journeys, they teach us things and help us develop into the beings that we are and who we're yet to become. So I don't tend to live in regret because I think you're always learning from life and you make the best decisions that you have today. And if it doesn't work out, that's okay. But it's a complete educational life process. And so I don't think I would change anything about my life because if I did change something about my life, I wouldn't be who I am right now.
Absolutely. I can totally resonate with that thought. So while we would have loved to get a definite answer, but yes, this is a wonderful thought as well. So we are going to let you go with that. Okay. And Tina, while we are having a wonderful conversation, but all good things also come to an end. So we are finally on to our sign off section. So a signature question for you. What does being human mean to you? What sort of a human being would you want the world to remember you as?
Wow. That is quite a question. I think as human beings, I think we're always in search of the ultimate connection. How are we connected to the universe? How am I connected to the feelings that I feel? How are we connected to God? I think connections is the big part, right? How are we connected through friends? How can I connect with this person versus that regarding what I said or heard? I think the search for the connection is what binds us all together. Mutually shared experiences or connections that allow us to feel closer to one another. I believe all of us humans subconsciously have this drive to keep finding connections. And that's what I think a human is, right? I think that's what being human means to me, at least. And my driving force in life is always trying to get people to laugh or smile, obviously through a connection, which is what I had indicated earlier. But when you encounter people in life and are then asked about them down the road, you really don't remember what they said or did, but you remember how they made you feel. And then you take into account the memory of why they made you feel a certain way. So when people think of Tina Donaldson, I really want them to start jogging their memory. And as they take that pause to respond, they're either smiling or laughing.
Awesome, Tina. Those are some wonderful thoughts yet again. And very true, as they say, that more than what you say or do, what people remember most is how you made them feel. And I think these shared moments and connections are really what make us humans, So that's exactly what the intent of this podcast also is, to bring out that human side of people, so that while we connect at a professional level, all the networking events and whatnot that we attend, but one gets to even see the human side of all us wonderful individuals and gets a chance to connect at that human level. So I think that's amazing what you have to say, and I totally resonate with that.
Yeah, well, thank you. This is a fantastic podcast. I really enjoy learning about others in the ecosystem. It's interesting because, it's almost like a family reunion of sorts when you get to these conferences, because all of us in this ecosystem have been around for 5, 10, 15 years, even longer, right? So it is sort of the connection of being in this ecosystem together and then showing up at a conference is in fact like a high school or a family reunion. And this is wonderful that you're doing this to get us to see beyond just the people that we already know and love, but to really get to see them outside of work. So I appreciate you inviting me to this program and what you're doing.
Thank you. Thank you once again, Tina. And I do hope at one of these high school reunions, you and I get to cross paths as well. I've heard so much about you. It has been such a fantastic podcast. And I do hope someday we get to meet in person as well.
Likewise. Thank you so much, Anurag. I really appreciate this opportunity.
Thank you. Thanks a lot, Tina. And as always, to our wonderful listeners here, thanks a lot for tuning into the show. We hope this episode gave you a good glimpse of the human side of Tina Donaldson, an innovator and a true pioneer in telecom, a true blue American who loves every moment of her life, someone who cherishes her travels and hopefully makes it to Antarctica as well, a super versatile person who has conquered so many professional frontiers while raising 5 amazing children. That for us is Tina Donaldson. So, if you enjoyed today's episode, do stay tuned in, because we shall soon be releasing yet another episode and another compelling story from the telecom space. And do follow the podcast on your preferred streaming channel. On behalf of Humans of Telecom, this is your host Anurag Aggarwal signing off for now. Take care.